The Gary Knoll Show, daily at noon on the Progressive Radio Network.
I'm Gary Knoll, and I'd like to welcome you to this program. Well, now over to my guest, Gerald Celente. Gerald, as many of you know, has been the founder of the Trends Journal, which is published 4 times a year at trendresearch.com. He is one of the leading strategists in the world today on almost all trends, and including 300 different fields that he looks into with his staff in depth. It's nice to have you back with us today, Gerald.
Oh, thanks for having me, Gary.
Gerald, I'm going to give you 2 interlocking questions. First, yesterday, with questions that the Greek government might do something as irresponsible and as stupid as actually asking their public, do you want us to pay back the banks, or do you want us to rebuild our society? Actually implement democracy in the heart of democracy originally. The banks went into a nosedive, investors too. Today, they're back up and the stock market's regained what it lost yesterday. People are watching the stock market, and all the enthusiasm for how good we're all doing is coming from these artificial figures. So I want you to explain to this audience why there is no true indication that we're improving because of watching the stock market. And separately, it is my feeling, and I've made this clear repeatedly, that I see that the Greek unions will lose all support if they don't demand this referendum. I believe the Greek people will vote unanimously against bailing out the banks, which will put them at 200% deficit, which means for every dollar that they earn in Greece, they owe $2 to these financial institutions, and that as a result, at some point, Germany and the European Central Bank and France are going to demand Greece leave the 27-member European Union, and one of its 17 using currency, get it off the euro, and probably at the same time do the same thing with Portugal, maybe Spain, and I doubt Italy, but I'm watching Ireland. The Irish are really angry. They have taken an enormous hit. The property values are in the toilet. They're not coming back. People are filing bankruptcies at an astronomical level, and yet they're not a whole lot better than Greece as a percentage of their gross debt, or their total debt against their gross domestic product. I see Ireland taking a message on what Greece does and following suit. That's what I see happening, and that's going to have implications here. Could you give us your analysis, please?
Yes, and going first to Greece, when you start hearing about how much they're going to get in bailouts, right? Let's understand what a bailout is. A bailout's another loan. So it's a new loan on top of an old loan. And these are nothing more, just so we could put this in clear context, these are nothing more than loan sharks. So the loan shark works like this. Listen, Gary, why don't you borrow some money? You know, you could grow your business a lot. And don't worry about it. I'm going to charge you cheap interest rates, and you could really, really expand because you need to grow. We want you to continually grow, even though continual growth is unsustainable. We're going to pretend it is. So I want you to borrow more money. Gerald, look, what if I borrow more? I'm going to make the terms easy, Gary. You borrow the money, you pay me back when you get it. Everything is the economy's booming. So you borrow the money from me. I'm the bank. I'll be Credit Suisse or Deutsche Bank or the Goldman Sachs gang or the Morgan Stanley guys, you know? So you borrow some money from me. And now all of a sudden business turns sour after a steroid growth hit. And I come back to you, Gary, listen, you're late on your payments. Gerald, I don't have any more money. I'm paying you everything that's coming in. I want my money. How am I going to get more money? Tax the people. Raise their how can I tax them? They're losing their jobs. I want my money. All right, I'll tax the people more. Then you're not giving me enough money. I tax the people. I want you to raise their electric rates. I want you to increase their home heating fuel. Winter's coming. Let them pay more. You do that. We'll call it austerity measures. We'll give it a nice name. It's not enough money. I want more money. Listen, I want your ports. I want your electric supply. I want your property. We're going to call it privatization. You got it? And that's what they're doing. That's all this is. These are not banks. They're financial criminals. I've said this before, and I'm going to keep saying it over and over and over again. If the names on Wall Street were named Celente, Caruso, Mondavi, Puccini, Rossini, they call it the mafia. And they have this wonderful language out there. They don't call it the mafia. These are financiers. So now we'll go back to Greece. They have to make, here's the word they use, the Troika happy. You know who the Troika is? That's the International Monetary Fund, or, as I like to call them, the International Mafia Federation. And then they have to please the other second of the Troika, the European Commission. And the third of the Troika, the European Central Bank. Why don't we take the name Troika out and call them the crime families? That's all they are. But they don't have names like Maya Lansky or Lucky Luciano. We'll call them Jean-Claude Trichet. Now, doesn't that sound nice? Or how about Christine Lagarde? That's much nicer. So this is all that's going on, is that the banks made bad bets. They're not bailing out anybody. All they're doing is taking on more loans. They'll never pay it back. They're almost $500 billion in debt, the Greeks are. So every time they're going to get $8 billion more, that's just to pay the VIG, on the loan. That's all that is. So what they're doing, and when you're putting this all together, it has to become really clear. You mentioned about Ireland, you mentioned about Portugal. This is a global meltdown. It's the beginning, as I've been writing about in the Trends Journal now for over a year, it's the beginning of the first great war of the 21st century. You play back the clock, Gary. Let's go back to 1929. You have the crash of 29. Then you have a Great Depression. There's a Great Depression going on. You know what the unemployment, the official unemployment, for example, in Spain is? Only 22% official. And it's like that around a lot of the globe. So now you have this high unemployment, so you have the Great Depression followed by that followed the crash of 29, and then you have currency wars. Pick up the paper. The yen. What are they doing? There's a currency war. They're trying to drive down the value of the yen. The Swiss drove down the value of the franc. There's currency wars going on. Listen to Manteiga from Brazil. There's a currency war going on. And now what's going on? China's set of trade wars going on. Sounds like the 1930s all over again, doesn't it? Great Depression, currency war, trade wars, world wars. Now let's put the pieces together. They're rioting in Spain. But they call them the indignados in Spain. And then there's the anarchists. That's what they are. They're anarchists in Greece that are out in the streets. Those aren't just angry people that are tired and getting screwed. No, they're anarchists, I tell you. And then you go over to Tunisia. Them are Islamo-fascists. And then you go over there to Egypt. I'll tell you, Gary, it's the Muslim Brotherhood. And then you go over to the UK this past August. It was hooligans that were out in the streets. Just listen to what David Cameron said. That's what you're seeing. You're seeing with all the Occupy movements. This is angry people holding university degrees in worthlessness that are getting shafted from the top and being forced to bail out the banks. I heard that clown, the pizza cat, running for president, Herman Cain. He said that those people on Wall Street, on Occupy Wall Street, they're anti-capitalist. Oh, they are? Got news for you, Herman. It's anti-capitalist to bail out banks. Capiche? It's anti-capitalist to bail out too big to fail. Get it? So this is what's going on. We're looking at a breakdown of the entire global economic system. The world is at war. And they're not calling it that. They're calling them all different names. And when you put it all together, that's all it is. There's no bailing out anybody. It's one big Ponzi scheme. And what they say with Europeans, we got to give them a bazooka shot. Oh, a bazooka shot. Oh, you mean dump in more digital money that's not worth the paper it's not printed on.
What are your thoughts concerning Iran, since there's a great deal of neoconservative and neoliberal positioning to make a preemptive strike or to support Israel making a preemptive strike in Iran?
We've said this over and over again. When all else fails, they take you to war. And as we wrote, and you got the copy of the Autumn Trends Journal, it just went out. We did a whole piece on Iran, that moronic story they tried to make up about, hiring this guy through the Mexican drug cartel to off the ambassador of Saudi Arabia. And now you pick up the news, and what's the headline when you see it? Israel test fires Jericho missile. Washington fears unilateral strike. Bibi rallies support for Iran attack. Bibi? How about Bobo? How about fascist? And this is what's going on. Look, the neoliberals, they're as disgusting as the neocons. And look what that wonderful war that Obama and the rest of them, Hillary Clinton, Samantha Powers, and Susan Rice, the three witches of Macbeth, took us to war with Libya. Oh, you remember that humanitarian war to save people as they leveled cities. They're going to take us to war. You read Hillary Clinton's statements about Iran, and you can see they're leading us to war. Whether or not if we go to war with Iran, this is the beginning of World War III. People better get that in their heads. These are the Persians. They've been around a long time. There are 70 million of them, and the United States, remember, wonderful Donald Rumsfeld going over to visit Saddam Hussein and handing them golden spurs. Remember that photograph as they waged a war started by the United States supporting Iraq to fight Iran in the 1980s. The Iranians lost 1 million people and didn't give up 1 inch of territory. Anybody thinks they're going to beat the Iranians, I'll tell you what, pack up your gear, take your wife, your kids, send your money, and go do the fighting, because you're going to lose.
Gerald, let's take a look now at what it means to be the 250 million Americans who are just above, at, or below the poverty level. I have not seen these people in the streets yet. I have not seen them protesting, but I'm out there filming them, and they're angry, and they're armed. They're that kind of very silent group of people. You can push them a long way before they snap, but I see that there's going to be a class warfare in the United States in the relatively near future, 2 to 3 years, where these people have nothing more to lose. No one's doing anything to stop their homes from being foreclosed on, to help them with loan forgiveness, their kids' loan forgiveness from schools. They're being hammered by both the Democrats and Republicans in Congress, and there's a point to which they're not going to take it anymore. But no one's at all paying attention to them. I believe that's where the tinderbox issue is going to ignite, not what's happening in the street now. It's a completely different energy in the streets compared to these people. Your thoughts, please.
Oh, I agree with you. And as a matter of fact, that's what the Summer Trends Journal is about. It's class warfare. It's begun. You know my saying, when people lose everything and have nothing left to lose, they lose it. And when the money stops flowing down to the man on the street, the blood starts flowing in the streets. And that's what you're seeing around the world. And that's what we're saying. The first great war of the 21st century has begun.